Hey YouTube babes, it is Ro, the Black Magnolia. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you're new here, where our motto is, you do not get this bougie by accident. As promised, we are going to talk tonight about part one of a part 4 series about how to build your credit in a bad economy, how to build a legacy for yourself as you start on your journey to credit freedom. Let me just start up by saying this. I hear you. Saving money is hard. Credit is hard. Finances are hard. Just because it's hard doesn't mean you can't do it. So in light of that, what I want to talk to you about today is how to begin to build your credit score, whether it's from zero, whether you're 18 and brand new to this, or you're somebody like me who's a little bit more seasoned, knows some more, but still can't figure out how to get themselves out of maybe a hole that you've fallen into. So before we can talk about building and getting to a place where we need to be, let's talk about credit. Do you know what it is? So what's a FICO score, Ro? Well, I'm glad you asked. A FICO score is the 3-digit number that all credit bureaus use to determine the likelihood of you repaying any of your debt. How do you get a FICO score? Well, by getting into debt. That's the easy way to put it, right? So, you get into debt, get some credit, and you get a FICO. What's the benefit of having a FICO score? What's the benefit of having a good FICO score? Well, the benefit is that creditors want to extend more credit to you. Banks that lend to people who want to buy houses, cars, motorcycles, Nordstrom, Saks. That's what a FICO can do. A FICO can give you the opportunity and the options to have access to money that you may not necessarily have in your bank account. So how is a FICO or a credit score measured? While I don't love these names for the categories, they are what they are. You've got poor, fair, good, and excellent. And what you can see up here are the different ranges. Now, there are different websites and different algorithms that are going to tell you what a good credit score, what a fair credit score, what an excellent, what a poor credit score is. It's going to tell you that. That 3-digit number can affect whether or not you can even open a checking account. Did you know that? Well, how in the world are FICO scores calculated anyway? It's actually a lot easier than you'd think. Take a look. FICO scores are calculated based on 5 categories of information from your, otherwise known as the consumer's, credit report. 1, payment history. 2, how much you owe on all credit that you have. 3, the length of credit history, how long you've had credit. 4, how much new credit you have or have added recently. 5, your credit mix. The rule of thumb for all credit, super simple. If you want to have a fairly decent credit rating, to get into that fair to good category, you want to keep the balances on all of your credit cards at 30% or under every month, no matter what. How do you do that? Well, you make sure you know the total credit limit that you have and you don't spend above 30%. That's where we get into trouble, is when we start to use our credit cards as a method to live and fund our lifestyles instead of funding our lifestyles with our income. So if you want to get to that good to excellent category, you want to keep your balances at 15% monthly of your total credit limit. Buckle in, babes. Here we go. 2 ways that you can build credit. There's secured credit cards and there's the checking account method. So especially in a market where we're dealing with inflation, something that we don't realize is that our bills really haven't changed. Our car note that we already had, if we have it, if it was high, it's still high. If it was low, it's still low. Our mortgage, if we were lucky enough to own a home, if it's not an adjustable rate, it hasn't changed. It's still the same. Those regular static bills that we have every month haven't changed. And interest rates and things like that on our car or our already existing mortgage payment or our rent have not changed. Why do you have less money? Things cost more because things that are perishable or replenishable items cost more in a market that is plagued by inflation. How can you track your spending and build your credit in a bad economy? First way, secured credit cards. A secured credit card is a line of credit that a company extends to you based on money that you give to them. It's a credit card with training wheels. So that credit card with training wheels is you giving them X amount of dollars. It's anywhere between, I would say, $100 to $800 are the balances that I see that they allow people to carry, that you give to the company out of your own money, and you give that to them to hold and allow you to spend as though it were credit that had been extended to you. When you get a secured credit card, you're going to get your card and you're going to get a statement with that card. That statement is immediately going to show that you are already in debt. Why? Because that credit card company is going to charge you a service fee. Anywhere from $25 to $100. I usually see it right in the middle at about $75. And that is the first charge that is on your card. So let's say, for instance, you give a credit card company $500 to open a secured credit card. Then they're going to take their $75 and what's left over is what you have of your $500 credit limit to spend. So you open a secured credit card and you're immediately in debt. That can kind of be a little bit of a drawback for some people. Also, some people feel like, I don't have an extra $500 to be able to spend and just give to a credit card company and wait for them to send me a card in 2 weeks and hope for the best. I'm going to give you a little hack that's going to help you with that and may give you a little bit more peace of mind as we get through the video a little bit more. We talked about the fact that a FICO is a 3-digit number that all creditors use to calculate the likelihood of you paying back your debts.
From what we saw earlier, there are 5 categories that make up the calculation for your FICO score. The biggest of which at 35% is your payment history. Do you make your payments on time or not? You're supposed to make your payment on the due date. So if your due date's the 10th and you make it on the 10th or before the 10th, great, you will get an excellent payment history. If your due date's on the 10th and you make your payment on the 14th, you'll still have a good payment history. It's not going to affect it. It's not credit reportable, but you will incur a late fee. So it's more money out of your pocket. Doesn't upset the creditor because you're not 30 days late, but they will penalize you for it. But it does not affect that 35% factor of your payment history in your credit mix. Did you know if you are less than 30 days late on a credit reportable item, it cannot be reported to any of the 3 credit agencies, no matter what the creditor tries to tell you? Before we get started on that, quick commercial break. What year were women legally allowed to obtain their own credit? If you said 1974, you would be 100% correct. During the civil rights movement of the late 1960s here in America, sweeping changes were enacted in order to afford Black Americans and other minority groups in this country the same civil and financial rights that had been previously denied to them. Specifically, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 created what we know now as protected classes. Those protected classes included race, religion, national origin, gender, marital status, age, and participation in public assistance. According to thoughtcode.com, a protected class is a group of people sharing a common trait who are legally protected from being discriminated against on the basis of that trait. But several years later, what legislators found is that those new laws still weren't deterring a majority of financial discrimination acts that were occurring. So a short 48 years later, on October 28, 1974, enter ECOA, or the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. This bill was created to protect minority consumers or those in protected classes from experiencing discrimination from lenders or banks. Now get this. What I found out when the banking committee was done and ready to mark up the finalized version of the ECOA bill, Congresswoman Lindy Boggs added a provision banning discrimination due to gender or marital status without informing any of the other committee members before she did it. She personally inserted that language on her own and then photocopied new versions of the bill. Then she told the other committee members when they found out what she had done, and I quote, "Knowing the members composing this committee as well as I do, I'm sure it was just an oversight that we didn't have gender or marital status included. I've taken care of that, and I trust it meets with the committee's approval." And the committee unanimously approved the bill. Can you imagine being a whole congresswoman, and you can't even get a credit card by yourself without your husband signing for you? or a man in your life signing for you? Try and sign for my credit card now. Just try it. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. So the takeaway here is that secured cards are a really great way to be able to build credit if you do not have access or cannot qualify for traditional credit. Using those cards wisely, spending on them wisely, paying them back in a timely fashion will help you build positive credit trade lines, which is what you need in order to get a FICO score or boost a FICO score that you haven't quite been able to move the needle on yet. Okay, babes, that's all for part 1. Part 2, coming this week, we'll go into the checking account method, which is my personal favorite. You're gonna love it. And as always, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and turn on all your notifications so you make sure you don't miss the next video. Until next time, babe, don't forget, if you haven't heard it today, you are worth it.